Hi everyone, my name is Dhea Rahmatika Utami. I'm coming from MGA ITB, class Blemba 36. In this presentation, I would like to present about fiscal and monetary policy in Indonesia for renewable energy market. This presentation is being made for my final exam about the macroeconomics. Let's go to the next slide. So, what is renewable energy? Based on the definition that I found from the many literature, renewable energy is how energy transformed from natural resources such as sun, wind, water, and biomass can be harnessed sustainably. So the word of sustainably in here that makes the renewable energy. There is some types of renewable energy that we can know. In here, I stated for five. One of it is solar energy. What is solar energy? Solar energy is energy that derives from the sun in the form of solar radiations. So this solar energy can be converted into electricity by using photovoltaic panels, or they call it PV. The second one is wind energy. What is wind energy? Wind energy is energy that harness from the kinetic energy of moving air. So usually they use the wind turbines to convert this kinetic energy into mechanical power, which can then be used to generate electricity. And then the third one is water energy. So water energy is energy that derives from the flow of the water. Like in example, dam. So the hydropower plants use dams to create reservoir and control the release of the water, which then spins turbines to generate electricity. And then the fourth one is geothermal energy. So geothermal energy is energy that can derive from the heat of the earth interior. And the last one is biomass. So the biomass can be derived from organic matter, such as plants, agriculture, residue, and animal waste. So after we talk about what is renewable energy, I would like to continue about the background. Why this renewable energy is so important for Indonesia. So currently, Indonesia is under pressure to move towards a more sustainable and eco-friendly energy system, because the energy that we use now is actually using the fossil energy consumption, which everyone knows fossil energy consumption is the most dirtiest energy that we ever met. So because of that, it's creating negative impact to the environment. As everyone knows, in fact, Indonesia is at eighth biggest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. So currently, like Indonesia has a great potential for renewable energy development. Despite that, we know that we still dependent on the coal, but the potential is there. The Indonesia government is actually acknowledge the importance of energy transitions, and actually they already set the target to increase the percentage of the share renewable energy in the energy mix, which is they put it in the CAN, or National Energy Policy, RUEN, as well as RUPTL. As you guys know, the target is actually we have to have the net zero emission in 2060, which is a great and big ambitious for Indonesia. As you guys know that our current renewable energy in 2023 is actually only 13.1, while in 2022 it's actually only 12.3%, meaning that the fractions is only like 90 bips, which is a slow movement for us. While in the can, Indonesia already stated that the target is 23% in 2025. So because of this kind of situations, we need to urgent transitions that we needed. Means that we need to move renewable or from coal to renewable energy in order for us to avoid the climate crisis. And then, in fact, for Indonesia, the fuel dominance in Indonesia, like 43%, we still use coal, which is like fueling emission and vulnerability for us. And then Indonesia as well, we have a lot of things that still there is a huge potential that's still untapped. In example, 3,600 gigawatt energy resources exist, but still unused. We're also facing Indonesia the policy ineffectiveness. Like an example, current fiscal and monetary policies are insufficient, favoring fossil fuels through massive subsidy. As you guys know, the subsidy for fuel in Indonesia, based on the data from 2022, the subsidy is actually more than 551 trillion to only subsidize for the energy, and mostly is coming from fuel. Because of this situation, the role fiscal and monetary policy is becoming more important to help Indonesia move to green energy system. Fiscal policy, an example, which includes government spending and taxes, can give incentive for renewable energy investment and make fossil energy less attractive. The second one is monetary policy, which mainly handled by Bank Indonesia, can also help by supporting green financing, such as lowering interest rate for clean energy projects and encouraging more sustainable economic growth. Before we talk about what is the current conditions about fiscal and monetary in Indonesia, I would like to share about Indonesia energy landscape. So as you guys know, we're really high dependent on coal. In 2023, 87% of electricity still comes from coal, oil, and natural gas, which is, as mentioned in the previous slide, the renewable energy on 2023 is only 13.1%. And then we also have the target renewable energy, which is this is like put it in every energy kebijakan energy national. In 2025, we need to achieve 23%. And in 2050, we need to achieve 31%. And in 2060, we have to achieve net zero emission. However, actual 2023, we only achieved 13.1%, which is still far away from the target, which makes us a slow movement towards the target. The next fact that we have is related to the investment. In 2022, the investment towards renewable energy is only 1.1 billion US dollar, which is in 2017 is 1.45 billion, which is how it's become lower in 2022, while the target is bigger in like next 3 years from 2022, right? Indonesia also faces a lot of challenge. In example, one of it is lack of infrastructure, especially an electricity grid. Investor also like facing the regulation and bureaucracy problem. It is hard for them to get permits and a lot of things like many overlapping rules between local and national government. We also realize that our subsidy towards energy is high. In 2022, the subsidy for energy is 550 trillion, which is that mostly went to fossil fuels like gasoline and diesel. And then, as mentioned previously, the investment is super low. At least we need 36 billion investment in order for us to reach 23% renewable energy in 2025, which is still far away. For the energy access, according to the data from EISR on 2023, actually the electrifications of Indonesia is already huge, which is 97%. However, in some rural and remote area, the electricity quality is still poor, which means the energy access towards that is still far behind the target. The next, let's discuss about the current fiscal policy in Indonesia. Because of the renewable energy in Indonesia is actually already decided that this is urgent and it's already planned for us. So the government already create a lot of policy related to the fiscal. One of it is like renewable energy subsidies and incentives. In here includes like they also give the tax holiday, accelerated depreciations, import duty exemptions, feed-in tariffs, and power purchase agreements or PPAs for independent power producers. This is already provided in the current situations in 2025. However, as I mentioned before, a lot of unclear regulations, long bureaucratic process, and sometimes overlapping authority between local government and national government makes the investor confused. According to the report of IASR 2023, the government also introduced the new pricings regulations, which is give more certainty on the renewable electricity tariffs. However, many investors still find the tariffs is too low and not bankable. So that's why the investor also not interested on that offer. The second problem is like on the fiscal policy, we also have the major fossil fuel subsidies, which is in 2022, we are spending more than 550 trillion for the energy subsidy, which is mostly on the fuel and gasoline. If these funds can be reallocated to support other renewable energy projects, it can help the incremental of renewable energy mix. However, this is super politically sensitive. Many politicians believe that reducing subsidies on this fossil fuel will lead to public protests because it's also happened back then. And then it will create the higher inflations afterwards, such as in transport as well as the electricity prices. The next one is budget allocations and public investment. So in our trade balance, only 0.1% the total national budget was used for clean energy development, which is too low for us. Actually, the Indonesia government also launched Energy Transition Mechanism or ATM and Just Energy Transition Partnership or GETP to increase funding to clean energy. However, this is still on early stage. So that's why it's not yet attract to many investors. This also needs the support from government and coordinations between ministries, state-owned enterprise, and local government. And they also need to commit on the new ATM and GETP funding. Next, we discuss about the current monetary policy in Indonesia. So in Indonesia, monetary is we having to monetary policy to pick government, which is Bank of Indonesia, and OJK, which is Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. This too is manage the financial regulatory side in Indonesia. However, in here, the role for those two is actually not really tapped in to support the renewable energy. Like an example, the Bank Indonesia is not asking other bank commercial to fund project in the that support environmental, because currently a lot of commercial banks is still conservative and they prefer to fund project with proven returns, which is mostly is coal power plants or toll roads rather than solar and wind projects which have longer payback periods. The second one is related to green bonds and green sukuk. Actually, Indonesia government is already launched a lot of things related to those two, green bonds and green sukuk. One of it in 2022, Indonesia has been issued 1.5 billion US dollar in global green sukuk, which is this is oversubscribed by the foreigner investors. However, Indonesia needs around 25 until 30 billion annually until 2030 to meet nationally determined contributions targets. So which means the green sukuk that Indonesia issued, it's still far away the target. The next one is related to green lending and financial instruments. Green lending means when a bank or financial institution give loan with favorable terms for environmentally beneficial project. However, the commercial bank, as mentioned on number 1, is only focused on the one that have proven payback period or proven returns. So only 5% the loan from the commercial bank goes to environmentally sustainability sector as of now. Renewable energy in Indonesia faces a lot of challenges. The first is regulatory and bureaucratic barriers. Many rules about renewable energy are still not clear or always changing. This also confuses the investor because it's swift changes and not really clear boundaries between one and another's. The second one is financial constraint and access to the capitals. As mentioned previously, Indonesia needs 25 until 30 billion US dollar investment to meet the target 23% of renewable energy in 2025. However, the interest rate for renewable energy project is remain high, which is around 10 until 12% per annum in Indonesia. As benchmark from Vietnam or Malaysia, their interest rate is only 4 until 6%. The third one is related to the fossil fuel, which is lock-ins and subsidy imbalance. Indonesia spent almost more than 550 trillion on energy subsidy, which is this is mostly to fuel and electricity, which is this is from fossil sources. So this is our key challenge to change that. The fourth one is institutional and coordination issue. So the coordination between ministry and institutions also not optimal yet. So there is still something not clear between the ministry one and another. And the last one is public awareness and technical capacity. So many people think renewable energy is expensive and unreliable because the fuel that government subsidize is actually cheaper than renewable energy itself. So that's why the people still think renewable energy is expensive. Let's benchmark what other country doing related to the renewable energy. An example on Vietnam. So in Vietnam, there is fast growth about the PV. In 2019 until 2020, Vietnam installed more than 9 gigawatt of solar capacity, which is this success is actually coming from the good policy, like an example, attractive feed-in tariff for solar PV, simple licensing process, and strong government support. So with this simple FIT, Vietnam can successfully having 9 gigawatt of solar capacity. Another example for China. China is, as everyone know, already the largest producer of solar panels, wind turbines, and also the biggest market of renewable energy. This is possible because the government makes long-term industrial policy and big investment in R&D. China also give a lot of subsidy, cheap loans, and land access to renewable companies. The third coming from Germany. Germany is famous on energy Wende and citizen participations. So one unique thing in German that not happen in other country, about 40% renewable energy in Germany is actually owned by communities and farmers. We also benchmark from Denmark. Denmark is world leader in wind power, which is over 50% electricity is coming from wind. Denmark is actually invest early on wind technology. They also build strong grid connections and make clear national plan towards that. What's we learn about those 4 countries, right? The first thing, stable and clear regulations is very important for investor trust because unclear regulations, long bureaucracy is make investor confused. The second one, fiscal incentive like VIT or feed-in tariffs, like that happen in Vietnam, tax holiday and investment grants should be competitive because if not, it won't attract the investor comes to Indonesia. The third one, coordination between government and utility company is a key, like in EVN in Vietnam or Germany EEG law. The fourth one, green finance from public banks can also help to lower cost of capital, which is not happening right now. And the last one, public involvement like community, solar, energy cooperative can also support renewable energy in rural areas. That's happened in Germany. Based on the study that I did, I would like to make recommendations on the policy. So the first one is reform fossil fuel subsidy. So this policy is cover both monetary and fiscal policy. So one of it is first, reform fossil fuel subsidy. So we have the government needs to turn subsidy the 551 trillion to support solar panels, rural electrifications, or energy efficiencies. It's better to swap those subsidy to other things. The second one, improve renewable energy incentives. Because currently the incentive is too small and sometimes it's not clear. So government should make the policy stable and long term. The third one, strengthen green finance through monetary policy. We have to develop more green sukuk and green bonds and give tax incentive for investors who buy it. And then we have to promote the green rating system for banks and financial institutions. The fourth one, we have to invest in grid and energy infrastructures. So the government must allocate more budget for grid modernizations, including smart grid and battery storage. And the last one, we have to encourage the local industry and jobs in green sectors, because according to the study, energy transitions for renewable energy can also create a new job and industry. So Indonesia should use this chance to build domestic industry for solar panel, battery, or electric vehicle. If we implement all the things on the fiscal and monetary policy, and if we achieve the target on 2025 and 2020 and 2030, what is the impact of Indonesia? Based on the study that World Bank did, ESR did, a successful transition to renewable energy can boost Indonesia GDP by 1.1% annually. So if currently GDP 5%, it can be boost Indonesia GDP to 6.1%. So this is proven by the study. This is calculated by the study. Another economic impact is also job creations. Renewable energy can attract investors that would like to invest in like electric vehicle factory, grid battery, and other kind of things. And then if the subsidy for fossil fuel is decreasing, we also decrease the import because the supply because of the demand will be decreased. So the supply also decrease. If we can decrease import, which means our net import export can be positive in our trade balance. Hence, the conclusions for this renewable energy, the first one is critical juncture. Indonesia renewable energy market is really crucial point, and then it's really dependent on fiscal and monetary policies. However, the government effort for financial incentive, tax reliefs, subsidies is helping currently, but remain challenged because it's not clear and not long term. The fiscal policy also have a gaps, like an example, insufficient financings, complex regulations, and fossil fuel dependence, which is hinder full potential for us for renewable energy. Monetary policy also have a gap, and there is a potential on it. We could better facilitate the long-term investment by stabilizing inflation and reducing currency risk. International corporations also needs to global benchmarking from other country can improve the policy frameworks and attract more investment. And the last one is GDP impact, as mentioned previously, at least 1.1% per annum. That's additional growth for Indonesia towards renewable energy. That's all from me. Thank you for watching. I'm Dhea Rahmatika from MBA ITB Blemba 36.